welcome to my kitchen. Today I'm going to be making dressing. I love dressing. And if you do like I do, when I have 1 or 2 pieces of bread left over and the end piece and it's getting a little bit old after about 2 or 3 days, you don't want it. So I always crumb it up, break it up, crumble it up, and I put it in a bag, and I just add to it until I need it. And today I needed it. So I've got probably about 6 slices of bread in there, and then I also use cornbread. My dressing that I'm making today is a sage dressing because we love sage in our dressing, and I know there's all kinds of recipes for it and very few use sage, but that's what I'm using. It's what my grandma used and my dad loved it, and I just always made it with sage. You know, my husband really likes it. My son doesn't, but there's where he can make it his own way. And I just break my bread up small pieces. If I'd have been smart last night, I'd have baked the bread before I went to bed. It would have been cold. That's okay. Anyway. But I've got my oven preheating to 375. And you'll want to bake it at 375 for probably about an hour. You can tell, check it, if it looks like it's done earlier. It doesn't. Everybody's oven isn't the same, so you know, it may take a little bit longer in yours than it does mine, or it may take longer in mine than it does yours. I don't know. So anyway, but I'm going to try it for 1 hour. I'll check it in between though. Now, once I get my bread all mixed, broke up, crumbed up, that'd be good with buttermilk over it. And just eat it like that. I love buttermilk and cornbread. That was something my daddy always liked. And sometimes that was his evening meal. He'd say, it's too hot outside to eat, and all I want's a bowl of buttermilk and cornbread. And that's what he would have. Okay, we're going to bring those two together. And then I'm going to add in, I have these left over, it's celery. If I don't use something, I don't throw the rest of it away. I'm going to add this little bit of celery in it. It should be about a half a cup or close to it. And then I'm going to add my onion. That's about 1/4 cup. Of onion. And then I'm going to add some parsley. Parsley just gives it that kick. So we're going to add some parsley to it today. I usually don't do that unless I've got fresh, because if it's not fresh, I don't want it. So then I don't use it. So today we're going to use some fresh parsley in it. You want to chop that up really fine. Holidays are sneaking up on us, and this is one thing that we always have is our dressing. So I thought I'd make some today and share my recipe with you. You might have a better recipe, but this was my grandma's recipe, so it's the one I use. I love cooking things that my grandma cooked. It reminds me so much of her, and she's been dead for several years now, and it just makes me feel good when I cook something that her and I cook together. She was 91 when she died, and she said she wasn't sick, she was tired. My uncle took her to the hospital, and they were going to run a bunch of tests on her, and I was talking to her, and she said, there's nothing wrong with my heart. And she said, now they want to run all these tests. And I said, oh, let them run them. Then my uncle will just let her alone and won't complain about it. And I said, they'll find out there's nothing wrong with your heart. So anyway, she said, okay. She lived in London, Kentucky. So I called back at the hospital, and I told them, I said, hey, if Grandma's blood pressure changes, if her anything changes, I want to know it. I said, I can get to her quicker than anybody, and I want to know about it. So that night, I told her good night, talked to her on the phone, and we always said the same thing when we'd hang up, and told her I loved her, and she said, I love you, and I said, and I started to hang up, and she said, Vera, and I stopped because my grandma isn't very firm when she talks about stuff, but she said, I love you, and I said, I know you do, and I love you. Not knowing what she knew, that night about 10 o'clock, the nurse wanted to know if she wanted a pain pill, and she said, no, honey, I don't have any pain. I'm adding just a little bit of chicken to mine. And nurse came back, they called me, and when she was gone. And I was very upset because they were supposed to have called me sooner, but they didn't. And the nurse said I didn't have a chance to. She said, I asked her, I said, Miss Bessie, would you like a pain pill? And she says, nope, don't need one, don't have any pain. And they said, well, would you like a sleeping pill? Don't need one. And the nurse said it was just the most peaceful thing she ever saw. She said she just looked up at her, closed her eyes, and she was gone. Now, wouldn't it be great if we could all go that easy? But she knew ahead of time that was happening when she very firmly told me to listen to her. Because when my grandma said listen, I listened. I'm using a tablespoon and a teaspoon. 1 teaspoon and 1 tablespoon of sage. But she was quite the lady. She lived on a farm all of her life, raised 3 sons by herself. Her husband, Grandpa, passed away when I think my dad might have been 9 or 10, and he was the oldest of the 3 boys. So she raised them by herself and worked hard. I know one year she said she had her canning done, and she would always, like it was a competition, she'd say, okay, how much did you can? And this time, I'm adding my chicken broth. This time she didn't do it that way. She just said, how many cans of green beans did you do? And I'm like, probably 30, 40. I forget. And I says, how many did you do? 600. What? I said, why so many? I said, Mamaw, you will never eat those. She said, someday somebody will need them. And the last year that she was living, when she went to the hospital, just before she went to the hospital, it was that same week, she said, I'd be proud of her because she cut back. And I said, well, good. And she did her own garden, everything herself. And she said, yes, I only canned 300 quarts this time. I'm thinking, oh my goodness. But she always believed that the more you gave away and the more you did. I used a pint of broth. And now I'm going to use some more. It's a good thing I saved this. But anytime there was a fire, a flood, or anybody was sick, they knew to go to Miss Bessie's because she would have the food for them, or she would have the quilt made for them, or a napkin. That's just what she did with her life after the boys were gone and she was alone. And Grandpa was gone, so she canned and cooked and sewed. Okay. I know you're going to say that has egg in it, Vera, but I'm going to taste it anyway and see if it's got enough sage in it. Probably. Then I'm going to put very little, but a little bit of salt in it and pepper. Okay. I think that's about what it should be. I'm going to add just a little more broth. I'm going to have used a quart of chicken broth. Now this is my broth that I made out of my chicken that I did in the crock pot. I added to it a little bit of water off and on because it kept making really good chicken broth. And I don't like to buy it at the store if I don't have to, because I know what's in mine. But if you've never done it before, and you may have, take and do your chicken. I did a chicken last night. Do it in your crock pot because it works great. And it's perfect for just 2 or 3 people when you don't want to fix that big turkey or something like that. Now that is enough, for you. Just put it in your crock pot, and then you'll also have a lot of chicken broth. Now me, I have more because I kept adding more water to it and everything as it was cooking, baking, so that I would have it, because I don't like buying it. I like fresh. Okay, now we're going to put this in a 9x9 pan, and we're going to bake it for about an hour at 375. But even buy, if you want turkey for Thanksgiving or Christmas one, or I have it just all year round because we like turkey. But if you want to have it and you don't think, no, I'm not going to do it, that's just too much, get a turkey breast. Get yourself a turkey breast, put it in your crock pot, and then you'll have your turkey, and it won't be too much. It'll be just enough for you and 1 or 2 other people. And I do that a lot. I'll put it in a crock pot. Okay. Make it because there's just 2 of us. And there's times that my grandkids or my daughter will want some, but if not, I do a turkey breast in the crock pot. Now there's my dressing. I am going to put it in the oven. I've been preheating my oven, so I'm going to put it in the oven at 375 for about an hour, and then we'll be back. Okay, we're back. Dressing's out of the oven. Looks good. Smells yummy. Well, I'm going to do like I always do, and I'm going to burn my mouth, but it'll be worth it, I'm sure. Very good. Very good, even though it's hot. Okay, now I'll have the directions and the recipe and everything posted down below. If you have any questions, let us know. We'll try to answer them. And try it. Try it for Thanksgiving or Christmas one, because I know you're going to love it. It was great being here today in the kitchen with you guys. I'm glad you joined me, and I hope to see you again real soon, and I'll have another video out with another recipe soon. So, thank you bunches.